Duke Nukem Forever began development in 1997 and wasn't released until 14 years later in 2011. That is a long-ass development cycle, and also adds to a delayed game does not always produce a fantastic game. However, although Duke Nukem Forever released to very negative to average reviews back in the day, is it really that bad, or was it just there was a mass anticipation for the next Duke Nukem game that it got away from them? Now, Duke Nukem Forever launched on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 and PC, and I did play it back then, and I didn't get too far into it on the 360, if I'm honest. I played a little bit of it, but I didn't hate it. I didn't see what the super negativity was around. However, more recently, over the last week, I have been chopping through it here and there, doing a couple of levels and whatnot. The gameplay I'm showing you is from the first handful of levels, so it's not going to be too spoilery. But I gotta say, in all honesty, playing this on PC on Steam, it runs incredibly well. But I can't see what's so terrible about it. I've played really crap games, and this isn't one of them. I don't think it warranted the supreme hate that it got. It's not amazing by any stretch of the imagination. It does feel like a Duke Nukem game. I have played the other ones previously, including the third-person shooters like Land of the Babes and whatnot. And in all honesty, Duke Nukem World 3D, I think for me is the best Duke Nukem, but his games haven't been like nowhere near as good as Doom, in my opinion. With the Doom games, still good, but not nowhere near as good. And Duke Nukem Forever, especially, is not dreadful. There's a lot of really cool ideas implemented into Duke Nukem Forever. Like there's a lot of ways that you can interact with the environment by lifting weights, eating donuts, playing pinball, using slot machines. There's those little things. They're cool to be able to interact with the environment, because you could do that in the other Duke Nukem games, not to this extent, but you could. Of course, the game also has hypersexualization over women, so I don't know how that's going to go down this day and age. But just kind of like grow some thicker skin and just take it tongue in cheek as it's intended. The first-person shooting is pretty standard. It's nothing extraordinary, and you can't aim down the sights, which is a bit annoying. But apart from that, I think this is just it's a good game. It's not a great game. It's not an amazing game, but it's not a bad game or terrible game either. This is a good game that I think just got thrown out to die, effectively, after a 14-year development cycle. Kind of like, more recently, Skull and Bones. I think that just got thrown out to die as well. And Suicide Squad, probably. I know I've used those quite a lot more recently, but it's just shocking how those games are 70 quid with what's in them, It's just absolutely bizarre. But here with Duke Nukem, I think its full price back then was probably 35 quid, maybe 30 quid. So it's not too bad of a expenditure. And of course, you could always just, if you really hated it back then, you could have traded it in and possibly got a good trade-in price, depending on where you traded it in, of course. Now, a lot of the criticism for this game comes around with the level design, that it's very uninspired and linear and blah 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 blah. Now, I will be honest, and this is probably going to garner some hate from any hardcore Duke Nukem fans, but I prefer that really to what we had. A lot of the time in the older Duke Nukem games, I'm running around thinking, where in the hell do I go? What do I do? And I'm spending most of the gameplay time going around trying to find secret doors or just trying to do something. And I think this more linear take with Duke Nukem, for me, is more enjoyable, but that's just my personal preference. If you enjoy the old school way of doing it, then that's entirely cool. You can crack on. Now, there's been some comments said this is a bargain bin kind of game. When now it is, of course it is. It came out a long time ago, but it's for the time I don't think so. Again, I think there is a group of people that's growing actually, which is looking back on Duke Nukem Forever and thinking it wasn't actually that bad. And it's not that bad. If you see it on the cheap somewhere, of course, always on the cheap, but if you see it on the cheap on Steam, or if you're a game collector and you see it physically, it's worth a playthrough, it's worth a bash, it's got some easy achievements to get or trophies to get, so if you're kind of that, if you're kind of a achievement hunter that way. But it's just a shame that Duke Nukem Forever effectively killed the Duke Nukem license, and that was back in 2011, and now, as of recording, we are in 2024, and there hasn't been another one, to my knowledge. So it just kind of feels meh. It also could be that Duke Nukem being, off the shelves for 14 years in a mainline installment was just brought back 14 years later, and just the audience weren't there or had grown up or were expecting something astronomical. I think that is the cause. But there's a lot of humor in this game. There's some pretty cool gaming moments and stuff, like being shrunk and driving a little remote control car. That's pretty fun. You can punch things. Duke's always saying cool one-liners and whatnot. It's a good shooter with some really cool moments and some excellent interactivity with the environment. But it's not nothing supremely astronomically game-changing. And I think that's its biggest crime, is that it's not something game-changing, and I think that's what was expected. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you hate this game, or have you played it and you think it's not actually that bad, or have you never checked it out? But as always, thank you very much for watching.
Ooh. Oh yeah, right there. Oh yeah.
That was fun. Was it good for you, baby?